What's happening, everyone? So, quite the last couple days, huh? Quick show of hands. How many of you guys ever owned Encyclopedia Britannica or anything of that effect? Wow, I would say almost 2/3, 3/4 of the room. Sounds like we've got a lot of geeks and nerds in the house, including me. And I know for many of us, having an encyclopedia was sort of feeling like you had the world in your hands, right? And you'd huddle underneath the sheets late at night with the flashlight. You'd be flipping through the pages, just like waiting, hoping your parents wouldn't come knocking on the door telling you to go to sleep. Well, what's happened? I mean, how many of you still own those same encyclopedias? Either in the garage, in storage. I think I see 3 hands up in the room. What's changed? The internet, of course. Right? We now live in a world of infinite knowledge. It's all there waiting at our fingertips. So, of course, you can just Google it. So there's a few things I want to talk to you about in the context of storytelling, and storytelling as a method of intuition, and how we think about knowledge. I think listening to the last couple days, we can all get a sense that there's a bit of an education bubble that's looming. And I'll spare you the history lessons. When we talk about a bubble, right, we're talking about where the perception of reality becomes so disconnected that it eventually comes crashing down upon us. That might be tulips, it might be the stock market, it could be housing. And I think many of us are here in this room, or we're listening to this live stream because we get a sense that education has a bubble. Now, if you think about it, today there are many young people who are coming out of school, especially as they go not only through K through 12, but on to higher education, $100,000, $200,000 in debt with an advanced degree that doesn't really come with a guarantee of job security or a clear, defined career path. And in many ways, many of us have been prepared for a world that doesn't really exist anymore. So, is it any wonder that so many young people are choosing to bypass or hack or reinvent their educational experience? Now, personally, I realized really early on that I was unemployable. It hasn't been an easy career or path for me. I started my career as a social entrepreneur working on digital divide issues in the late 90s. I had some early success, had a whole bunch of failures, and I felt like something was missing from the conversation. So for the last decade, I've become obsessed with storytelling. Specifically, storytelling as it relates to the change-making in the creative process. Today, I work with thousands of entrepreneurs, teaching them how to tell their story. Now, to understand some things a little bit better, I'll tell you guys about my own upbringing. It'll maybe start to help connect the dots. So, my father is an inventor, born in the bush of Africa, and my mother is a teacher, artist, and a toy designer. You can imagine what that household or family dinner conversations were like. Now, for all of the gifts that I got with that education, I grew up in cultures all around the world, I forever felt lost in translation. Like a fish out of water, or as Mel Rosenberg spoke yesterday, I loved his expression about being a misfish. And I think in many ways, as educators, many of us can relate to that experience of feeling like we don't really belong in the world. We don't really know what our place is, where we fit in. And we go on sort of trying to find our place. In many ways, I think that we teach what we need to learn most, which is what brought me to storytelling. So, we've heard a lot of amazing things the last couple days. And one of the things, I got to participate or listening to the live stream and the Twitter stream and really take in a lot of what was being shared. And here, my biggest personal observation was that not only was this conference just awesome, but that as educators, really great educators are naturally great storytellers. Have you noticed that? So why aren't we as educators teaching storytelling? Right? Because educators, I think what makes us all such great storytellers is we talk about what really matters. Right? And we bring it to life in evocative terms. So I think this is what we need to teach. I mean, I'll go so far to say that I think that storytelling is probably the most essential yet overlooked skill that's missing from our 21st century curriculum. And now, I'm not talking about once upon a time fairy tales or how to tell the perfect anecdote. I'm not talking about basic literacy or Winston Churchill public statesmanship. I'm talking about storytelling at a deeper level. All those other things are important. But I'm talking about storytelling as a framework and as a language for expressing who we are and how we think, how we see the world, what we care about. Now, it used to be different. If you go back 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, you were born into a tribe. And there was a specific set of stories in very precise terms that told you who you were, where you came from, what you were here to do, what your purpose in life was, and how the world was made. Even 50 or 10 years ago, there was this myth of cosmological certainty, right? And we've all inherited certain stories from our family, from religion, from education, from government, from media, and the broader culture. These stories sort of explained how to live by, right? These stories explained how the world worked. Well, what's happening today is those stories don't work like they used to, do they? So is it any wonder that young people are sort of sitting here kind of scratching their heads going, well, how do I make sense of all these contradictions, this paradox, this world of infinite knowledge that I can find on the internet, and these old stories that don't really seem to be true or valid for me anymore? I think this is what young people are trying to reconcile. So, as we go through this process, each of us, and I think young people especially, we're all trying to find our place in the world. I think there's a way forward. We're all born with a unique genius, a personality, a certain way that we see the world, and you've heard many others speak about this in the last couple days. Maybe you look at financial numbers and you see a story. Or you're able to take paint and color and aesthetics and you see a story. Or you play with words and you see a story. Right? We all, in many ways, see something unique and different. And I think the quintessential struggle we go through life is finding others who see what we see. And this is what young people are looking for. Right? It's an exercise in pattern recognition. You guys remember that scene in Avatar? It's like the one redeeming scene in the movie where you got the two Na'vi starstruck lovers. They're staring in each other's eyes. Do you guys remember what they say? I see you. Right? Like in that moment, sort of captures what I think most of us go through life looking for, is to be seen. And when we become seen, we usually fall in love with that person, or they become our BFF, or our family, our tribe, right? We feel understood. So, what if we thought about the process of education and the process of learning as a process of teaching people how to articulate, to find their voice, to share with the world what they see? Well, have you guys taken a look at the next generation of entrepreneurs and creatives? This is what blogging is. This is what social media does. Right? There's a new cultural meme that says, everybody has a story. You have 1,001 platforms for sharing your story with the world. You can play your own game. You can build any world that you want. And this is what I'm seeing in this next generation of entrepreneurs. And if you're looking for a few examples, check out Corbett Barr, Marie Forleo, Tad Hargrave. There are many. Also, the Young Entrepreneurs Council that I'm a member of really represents this new ethos of young 20 and 30-something-year-olds who are using the internet in a way as a self-reflective exercise, thinking of entrepreneurship as a journey in personal development. Right? I remember I was once attending a lecture with some yogi, and he said, well, you can't really have a spiritual practice without keeping a journal. I remember that really got under my skin. I was annoyed because I've been a seeker my whole life, but I've never been able to keep a journal. I've struggled with this. I'd start, I'd stop. Within a couple days, it'd be sitting on the shelf collecting dust. The light bulb went off for me when I started playing with the internet, because I started to see how social media was a way to externalize my own internal thinking process. What I couldn't get out of keeping a journal sort of in analog space, I could do it real time with the world. And as I started doing it, I was able to invite others into my world. And we'd start to connect the dots. And this is what young people are doing. This is, I believe, if you can tune out all the other noise and the ways that technology, of course, can be abused or can be as an escape, I believe that social media can be used actually as a platform for self-actualization. Bear with me. Okay, I'm talking about using the web as you share your own story, that you get to actually witness it back. See, this is the underlying meme of storytelling. If everybody has a story, you're the narrator or the director of your own life story. You get to choose what parts of your story to tell, and you get to interpret it and reinterpret it, and you get to think about it over time, and you get to shift it from fresh perspectives. Right? You get to try on different hats of identity. And this is the opportunity that I think young people, especially digital natives, intuitively get. So as the saying goes, the stories we tell make the world. So perhaps we need to teach young people the fundamentals of narrative. Because as they find the power to express themselves, they'll learn how to see and dream their story into reality. So there's very little time here and much to say. If you guys are interested in learning any more about this, I have a storytelling manifesto you can download for free on the internet. 10,000 people have read it. If you go to getstory.com. And I want to thank all of you guys for listening and giving me the chance to connect with you guys. It's a really rare and remarkable conference that we've all taken part of. So just want to thank everybody here at 140 EDU, and thank you all again.